What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Victory Life Legacy Podcast. I'm your host and founder, Dwight Vick, here without my sidekick and co-host, Danny Noakes. He was set to all record with me tonight, but he couldn't stay on. He was having technical difficulties. He upgraded his Wi-Fi, and then for some reason, the connection just wasn't good. So I'm flying this ship solo, or sailing the ship solo. I don't know what's the right terminology, but tonight, as I record this episode, I'm going to be joined by two other former players that are going to open up and discuss what's going on with Tech, kind of like a mid-season report, just to kind of share their thoughts with me and you guys listening online on Spotify, on SoundCloud, or also watching us on the Victory Life YouTube channel. Just want to remind everybody to please make sure you share these videos, you subscribe to us on Spotify. You also make sure you check us out on YouTube. Um, I'm recording this in a different location. That's why I got the Lane Stadium background behind me. Looks good, right? And hopefully we get the same kind of turnout, which I think we will this weekend is homecoming. So anybody going up to the Bird, make sure you're going to be safe, drink responsibly, have fun, be responsible in all things you do, but make sure you support those Hokies, not just the football team, but everybody, alumni coming back. Make sure you have fun, you show love, you have a great time. Um, Tech is coming off two games in which they went one-on-one. Last weekend, they had a tough loss to Florida State, fifth in the nation. We kind of knew how the game was going to go. Drones came in and did his thing. Um, Especially against Pittsburgh, he had 5 touchdowns. So right now, you have Virginia Tech sitting at 1-1 in the ACC with a big opportunity to make to 2-1 this coming weekend against Wake Forest homecoming. So really excited about seeing what they're going to do because Virginia Tech's in a position in which they have a chance to build on some momentum they've had in the last couple of weeks, even though you might be sitting there at home saying, wow, we lost a tough one to Florida State and we're 2-4, but this is not a rebuild, this is a build. I've said that. Coach Pry is definitely, I feel like, the right guy. I feel like he's got some players in place. Obviously, he's building something. It's not a rebuild, it's a build. Everything they're doing right now, they have to build from the ground up through experience and through the right players, the right mindset, the right recruits, the right culture in place. And that takes making sure that everybody believes in the locker room and making sure that everybody understands what's at stake. So tonight I'm going to be joined by two former players. They're going to come on here in a second and join me to talk Tech. Just a little reminder too, I did talk finally. I said this a few weeks ago when Danny and I recorded. I did talk to my cousin Mike. Our schedules have been crazy. We've been trying to lock in some stuff, trying to work out something special for all our supporters out there. So looks like we're set to record our first episode of season 3, Virginia Tech, the Vick 757 show, talking all things Tech. So definitely want to get everybody locked back into that, making sure that's a good thing, making sure we're good to go with all of that. So really hopeful and looking forward to doing that. So that should be a good time. And I'm going to actually let in my first guest, see if he's good to go. My guy, Anthony Lambo, former offensive lineman at Virginia Tech, is set to join me. A guy I know very well, a Jersey guy, a guy that I have a lot of love for, man. So really excited to have him on and joining us tonight. My guy, there he is, looking good. Anthony Lambo's in the building, man.
How you doing, Dwight?
I'm
Can you hear me
good, man. How
okay?
you doing? Yeah, I can hear you
Good,
great, man.
good.
You're looking great. You're looking good, man. How you doing?
Thank you. Good. I'm excited to be here, man.
Yeah, man, Danny, I was just saying Danny Noakes was on. He was all set to go with me, and then he had to jump off because he just upgraded his Wi-Fi and his connection just wasn't flowing. It wasn't good. So I'm doing this solo, which I've done before, man. So
Gotcha.
I'm glad to have you on, man. And it should definitely be a good time tonight, man, as we record this on Thursday night, man. It's good. You and I normally chop it up on the group chat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm glad to have you on, man. So where are you at these days, man? Where you staying at? Where you living at?
I'm in New Jersey still. I'm up in the mountains now in Randolph. Last 5 years, my family's moved a couple times. Had some things going on. So I'm up in Randolph, New Jersey now. I'm teaching. My three daughters keeping me busy. My wife and I have three daughters playing multiple sports, and I'm teaching and coaching myself. So I've been real busy, and I'm back in school again as well. So I got a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah. And you say you're coaching, right? I know you have a camp last summer.
Yeah, I've been coaching. Well, I actually coached three sports for about 15 years in at high school level, varsity. I did football, basketball, and then spring track. Currently, I'm just doing spring track as my daughters all play multiple sports, and you know how that is, Dwight. So I pulled back a little bit from the coaching now, and I'm more involved with them full time, helping the wife out, traveling back and forth, state to state with AAU basketball and cross country and soccer and all the good stuff. So it's all great stuff. It's all love. It's all fun, exciting stuff. See the kids compete and grow. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, man. No doubt, man. Three sports for 15 years? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Well, you know how it is when they're athletes growing up. We played sports year round. We all played multiple sports growing up, and
Yeah, we did. We did.
yeah.
Yeah, we did, man.
So
Yeah, we did. Well, let's talk Tech, man. You saw Tech play in person. I haven't seen him play in person this season. You saw him play in person against Rutgers. And we were in our group chat, me, you, Sharon, Ken Oxendon, Derek Smith, Samad. We were talking about it. You know, you went up there with the enthusiasm. You got hooked up with some free tickets. So you were
yeah,
like, why not? The game didn't go as we wanted, man, but you saw them then. And then since then, they played, Pittsburgh, Marshall, and Florida State. They sit at 2-4, and they're in a situation in which they are 1-1 in the ACC with a chance to go 2-1 this weekend, homecoming weekend in Blacksburg. I want your thoughts, man. You saw him in person against Rutgers. Tell me about what you enjoyed, the good, and then also tell me some things that they got to get better at.
oh, that's a lot. I did enjoy myself. I got the invite. I got the invite from a close friend to go to a tailgate. I was excited. I got some tickets from Coach Price, which was nice and lovely to get some coaches tickets, some good seats. I got to see Lauren Johnson and a couple other guys at the game. You know, they got guys on the
Hmm.
team, sons on the team playing. So it was great to see some Hokies there.
Yeah.
As far as the game goes, Dwight, I mean, we've had our text group talking about, our expectations, having realistic expectations. It's tough. You know how it is. When everybody who leaves Virginia Tech expects the group to come after them to do just as good, if not better. We
Hmm.
feel like we've all set a standard, and we want that standard to be met every year. I mean, we've
Hmm.
all seen what happened prior to Coach Pry taking over the program. I mean, the guys on the inside know what the happenings, and it came out in public as the tenure got switched. As far as the recruiting aspect and the personality of the program kind of changed, and we all felt that as alumni the past few years, and we all communicated that with each other and with people in the program that still have connections, like Andre Davis and Chad Beasley and those guys. So sitting there watching the game, sometimes the past year or so has been tough to stomach because our expectations are high, but we also have to be realistic. We have a young team. College football is not what it was even 5 years ago with the NIL and the transfer portal. So it's hard for guys to let things go and realize, we have to set realistic expectation of what we have and what the future brings. We have a great staff. Some guys are young and new and learning their way as they're going, but that's part of the game sometimes. So
Yeah,
watching the
it
game at
is.
Rutgers, it was eye opening. As an athlete and a coach, you see things that the normal fan doesn't see.
Hmm. Well, did you feel like they could have won that game? Because I mean, I know that's not the Rutgers teams you and I used to be by 40, and I was done by the second quarter or getting ready to be done. They've improved. Greg Schiano's a winning coach. He knows how to build. He's coached on both the professional and collegiate level.
Yeah,
Um, was it because I remember thinking like, wow, okay, this is a winnable game. There was a moment where Tech was making a little bit of a run, and then Rutgers just continued to mash the ball down our throat. I think the biggest surprise to me, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think the quarterback only passed for maybe 40, 30 yards that game. They literally ran the ball.
yeah.
Were just from your perspective, were guys out there competing, or they just don't have enough depth and talent? I mean, again, this is your opinion, your insight.
Yeah. Back to your original question, do we have a chance to win the game? If you look back at the film and most of the games we played this season, there was opportunities where we had a chance to make a play or get a stop. I think we were in almost at some point in the games, almost every game, there was opportunities that we could stay in the games. And I think that's part of the process is building that identity. Whether it's on the defensive side of the ball, we need a situation where we're consistent enough to win those games and be in those games for longer periods of time. But we're definitely in the games. I don't think it's effort. I mean, if you look at the size of our guys compared to the size of some of the guys we're playing, physically wise, we seem like we're a little smaller than the opponents we're playing. And that goes back to things like the weight room. Our speed across the board looks pretty good. I mean, it's growing. I feel like we're going through growing pains. I mean, I have faith in the coaching staff and the kids that are there that buy in. But like I said, it's a process, and as an alumni and alumni that set a standard, it's hard to watch sometimes and hard to process.
Why you say that? I want to hear from you. Why it's one thing to hear on the text. Why you say it's tough? Because I say that sometimes, and fans say, "Well, it's tough for all of us." But I think just elaborate what it means from a former player perspective when you say it's tough.
It's tough because you know the work that these guys are putting in every week, and they're definitely working hard. There's not a doubt in my mind that Coach Price and Prelo and Cheetah and Miles and all those guys have these guys working hard. But when you do that for 6-7 days in a row and it's not transferring over to game day, it's difficult. It's difficult because not everybody sees Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday. All they see is Saturday afternoon or Saturday night or Thursday night. And it's tough on these guys, man. It's a lot of pressure on these kids. There's a lot of pressure with NIL. Oh, I'm making this. You're not. There's pressure with transfer portal. Worried about guys coming in. It's not high school guys coming in that are redshirting anymore. It's guys coming in that are 22 years old that are coming to take your position. So it's a mix of things.
Talking with Anthony Lambo, all conference, the standout offensive lineman, played at Virginia Tech, part of that team that went to the national championship game with my cousin. Played against some of the best players in the Big East. My guy, my jersey was my locker mate in the corner with me and Corey Moore and those guys. Some great times. My jersey connect back when the Sopranos was popping, man.
Yeah.
Anthony, man, you were a guy that came to Virginia Tech. You started off as a defensive tackle. I remember going against you. You came in after JC and those guys left. And then you converted to offensive lineman, and then you were part of that great group that when me and Derek Smith and Todd left, you, Cadella, and Josh Redding and Matt Laird took over. You guys were great. Shout out to those guys, Tim Schnecker, Keith Short. You guys did a great job. Blocked for some amazing running backs and quarterbacks. With that being said, when you talk, I wanted to ask you this. I've said on the different platforms I'm on that Coach Brent Pry is not rebuilding, he's building. It's a different era. And I don't even like to compare. It's tough to compare what we went through as part of the build. We set the expectations Tech fans have now. When you look at Brent Pry and the build he has ahead of him, because everything for him, and the reason why I say it's a build, everything he has ahead of him is a first for him because he's a first-time head coach. It's a first for these players because they never won a conference championship. You and I got there. That was the expectations because it had been done by the coaches in place. When you talk about, again, you coach, so you have the credibility to say this. When you talk about building what Pry needs to do, getting back not just what we did, but exceeding what we did to be better, what does he have to continue to do, and what is something he needs to do? And that's more so like he's already doing well. What does he need to do? Not him do better, but just build on and get more of.
Well, from what I understand and what I've seen, he's doing a great job recruiting the state again, which is going to take time because those ties were disconnected a little bit with the last leadership. So I mean, he's doing a great job with that, and that's probably one of the best places to start is getting in-state guys. I know Virginia's it's one of the best states in the country for high school football. So for him to get those ties back, Blacksburg and VT needs in-state guys to come back. That's obviously a big part of it. Coach Pry was actually the defense of a graduate assistant my freshman year when I came to Tech. And, I sat in a lot of meetings with Coach Pry my freshman year. We had a good relationship. He also I ran scout team tight end my freshman year, and he was in charge of the scout team. So we were together a lot during my redshirt freshman year. During pregame warm-ups, we would go out with specials, and I would be Shane Beamer's backup long snapper. So I would play catch with Coach Pry, and we would just talk about how blessed we are to be in this situation, have the opportunity to be, at Virginia Tech on a Thursday night on ESPN. There's nothing better in the world than that. So to
Yeah.
bring all that back and the expectation again, enter Sandman. As soon as the game starts, there's an expectation of the guys before they even get on the field. Sandman, we're coming out telling you we want to physically dominate and lead the way and set the tone of the game. That's what Sandman's telling you. And for those guys to come out and have to maintain that for 4 quarters as a young group, we're a very young group. That's a difficult thing to do. This year and the past year and even probably into next year a little bit, it's still going to be some growing pains, a lot of learning, a lot of building a camaraderie by positions, offensive line. They're so young and inexperienced as a group together. That makes a big difference. Like you said, we were lucky enough, Cadella and Short and all the guys at Lair that I played with, Redding. We were all Schnecker, and we were all lucky to have you and Derek Smith and Gennaro DiNapoli and Bill Connolly and all those guys to show us the way, show us the right way to practice. Right. So this is on Tuesdays. We're not shaking hands and saying we're taking a rep off. We're, John Engelberger and Corey Moore never gave me a day off.
Oh, God.
Never gave me a day off. So, when we got to games, things were a little bit slower. So it was competitiveness in practice, all those things. There's a lot of things that have to come together in order to compete and stay in and win a football game. And, it's just people have to be patient. They have to believe and trust in the process. And we don't always like what we see and we don't always like the outcome, but that's the only time we learn and grow is when we're failing. When everything's great, everybody pats you on the back. There's not any negative comments on social media. You're the best thing since sliced bread. But as soon as something happens that's not good or somebody doesn't like or the feelings get hurt, you get torn up on social media and all that stuff. And the players and everybody needs to stay away from that.
Yeah, no, you said something I want to touch on. I'm always on Twitter running my mouth, man, but nothing negative, just sharing my thoughts. But I'm on there, man, having a great time. And I got a little bit of heat because I said, I'm kind of over the entrance of Enter Sandman in regards to that being the only thing that highlights our program now. It feels like it's just more manufactured hype because you have this great entrance and then we're not meeting those expectations in regards to energy and outcome. And you said something very profound that kind of reinforces my point in the fact that the interest is special. It's like on almost everybody's bucket list. I got to get to a Tech game. But I've tweeted that what made that entrance special was the fact that you had a tough, physical, discipline, and really good team to watch. And it made the opponent enjoy the entrance, but not want to play in Blacksburg, the toughest place to play. Obviously, the physicality has changed with targeting. You can't go full pads like you used to back in the 2000s and 90s. It's a different time. I'm okay with that. When you talk about Tech now, I'm big on culture. You were there as well, and you were part of a great culture. And that continued after you and I left with the Daryl Tapps and the Jason Worlds and the Dwayne Browns and the Wyatt Tellers, all these great offensive defensive linemen. You talk about an offensive line being young. What do you think, or do you agree, I should say, do you feel like we need to continue to get these offensive linemen like yourself and defensive linemen like the guys I mentioned to get back? Because quarterback is great. I love the kid Drones. Tootin is a really good running back. Malachi Thomas is really good. He complements him well. The receivers, are really good. They did a great job in the portal, but the offensive line and defensive line is where it's won at. That's what you and I were taught. Do you really feel like that's what we really got to get back to, getting some guys in the trenches on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you know, the game's won and lost up front. The pace of the game is set up front. The tempo, everything is set up front. Issue is with football, and I was having this conversation the other day with someone. In football, every position has advanced or has grown or has changed. The role, the responsibility, everything from the running back to the slot receiver to the wideouts to the quarterback not being hit. The running backs, DBs playing linebacker basically because of the speed and size. Every position except for the offensive line. Nothing has changed. It's still the same MO from it was 1982. The same robotic movements, the same, everything's technique and hand placement. And it's just interesting how the game is sped up and evolved everywhere except for in that position. And offensive line is still taught the same way today as it was 50 years ago, as where every other position is not. Every other position has changed. You always see videos of guys doing releases as DBs and certain jams as, releases as receivers, certain jams as DBs. You don't see many highlight videos of guys kick-stepping. The kick-step's been the kick-step the past 75 years. So that's a difficult part of it. You know, the positions are changing, advancing, and growing, and the offensive line expectation is still old school. It's hard to find a kid with that personality who doesn't want the glamour, who's not going to get attention on social media because they're on the field 80 snaps, and the only time they got highlighted is when they jumped off sides or held somebody. It's hard to find kids with those characters that don't want the sunshine, don't want the light on them, that want to do what's best for the team. So it's a character thing too in the society we grow up in, to find certain guys that are, you know, that are humble but also hungry and have a little chip on their shoulder and have an attitude and not are all me guys. And then you got to get that group of guys to work together. It's a task. It's a task up front for the offensive defensive lineman. Defense is a little easier because they're free spirited and their movements are a little more open minded and in a growth area, as whereas offensive line, as you know, everything is robotic movements and steps and technique, and it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, it does. And I feel like the continuity is important too. I was talking to the former standout and great receiver Trey Turner. He was on the Vick 757 show with Mike and I, talking all things Tech 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, 3 years ago. And he was saying to Mike and I that during his time at Tech, he had played with 7 different quarterbacks. 7 different quarterbacks. And then I look at the fact that, you know, in the last few years, Drones just transferred from Baylor. You have Grant Wells, who transferred a few years ago from Marshall. And then before that, they had Brummeister, and you had Hendon Hooker before he went to Tennessee. He had a great run at Tennessee, Heisman candidate, and went to the NFL, set records. I mean, at one time they were number 1 in the nation. But I feel like continuity is one of those things that is important, because I think from the offensive line, continuity is important. But quarterback play, I feel like Virginia Tech won't really get back to where it needs to be. Of course, you need its recruiting and you need the players, but I think the continuity at the quarterback position is essential, because if you know this is going to be my guy the next few years, the backup is the backup, then he'll take over. I know with the portal that's a little bit different, but I still feel like you can have some continuity, you know, at that position. Do you agree? Do you feel like, you know, that's important as well? Or do you feel like, oh, you can always hit the portal and get a guy to come in?
I think continuity, camaraderie, I think it starts in the meeting room. I think that starts with the coaches actually leading it, even if he's not directly leading it, but throwing things out there for the kids to pick up on and maybe take advantage of what he's asking of them. But that's huge. I mean, you know how it is every day you're practicing. You want to be able to trust the guy next to you. Know that you're not going to wake up tomorrow and he's like, oh, I'm out. I got a better opportunity somewhere else. So in this day and age, you want to find guys who want to be Hokies, guys that want to be in Blacksburg, which is not always an easy thing. You know, it's a small college town. It's basically, you know, surrounded by the sports activities and the games that go on. So that's the heart of the campus. So you need to find guys like that's the reason why the in-state recruits is huge. The camaraderie part, guys you're playing against, you want to play with in college, right? A lot of guys in Jersey, basketball guys in Jersey, try to team up with each other and go to college together to try to build something. So we need people with that mentality. They want to build a program. They want to come back to Blacksburg. And I believe that's Coach Pry's goal. That's what he seems to be doing in his recruiting process with his coaches, is trying to find in-state guys that want to be in Blacksburg. They're not coming for the NIL. They're not thinking about transfer portals, because it's hard to build. You know, it is. We had guys transferring in and out for different reasons when we played there. And, you know, we had great team camaraderie, which welcomed all those guys in, you know, like Lunch Meat and some other guys. And then Lamont.
Oh, man. I forgot about that. I don't even remember Lunch Meat's real name. For those listening. Dave. Yes, it was.
Yes. And then, you know, Lamont Pegues came in and we welcomed him with open arms. Chiron, you know, took one, was a team player and ended up redshirting when Lamont came in. So there's a lot of things that were involved. We were fortunate enough to go to national championships, not only because we had great team camaraderie and a bond, and we had Mike, obviously, but we also were injury-free. We didn't get injured until maybe the last week or so. You know, we had a couple guys get hurt leading up to the game who missed the game. Ricky Hall. I know Shy got hurt during the game, but, you know, we were lucky enough to get through that season mostly healthy. The whole offensive line, knock on wood, made it through the entire season with not many injuries. The team as a whole made it through. So all those things play a part. If you're there every day practicing with the same guy, you know what to expect from his effort to his verbal language and calls. So all those things, it plays a huge role, and it starts in the meeting rooms.
It's so funny you mentioned that because that was a special year and guys did get banged up at that game at the worst possible time because I believe you had Sharon and Ricky get banged up, not finish the game. And Roniel came in late because was it Midget or it wasn't Ike Charlton? Somebody, a cornerback got hurt. And then our guy Mookie, Reggie Samuel, got hurt in the spring game tackling Mike because Nick Sorson wasn't supposed to be the starting safety.
Yeah.
But you know what that means, though, when you say that? It means you had depth because you had guys that came in. I know Roniel and Larry Austin were freshmen or they were young guys, but they still came in. I think that's what Pry is trying to do and build. By the way, I never asked you this question, despite us being brothers and knowing each other forever. How was it like to play in the national championship game? Because I still, on one end, I'm just loving the fact that y'all going there because I graduated, but then I'm looking kind of sideways like I started tech early. I was supposed to come in 95.
I
I was
remember.
supposed to be there with y'all. And
Yeah.
I'm like, my God, I was in the stands watching it, man. How was it? Like, I
Well,
know we didn't get the W, but
nah,
you ever look back like, man, like tell your daughters, like, hey, I was in a national championship game, a BCS national championship. How was
absolutely.
that?
It was awesome. First of all, it was the year 2000, so it was the new millennium, which was a little craziness going on in society and everything. The world's ending, the internet's going to collapse. So everything was a little chaotic. Plus we were down in New Orleans, which was a blast. The game was
Hmm.
actually on January 4th, which is my birthday. It was my 22nd birthday. We played in the national championship.
Really?
Yeah, so it was a special day for me, man. My parents were there. My mom and dad got flown down to the game. With my girlfriend was there at the time and her parents. So it was a special day, man. We walked out
Hmm.
on the field expecting to win, knowing we belonged there. There was a great week of practice. The media was a little crazy that week with everything going on. The hype with Corey Moore and Mike. It
Oh, I
was
forgot
yeah, it was intense and it was a lot
it.
more than usual leading up to that week. But I mean, just the emotion ran out. There was 88,000 people in the stands. We're watching only game on TV, millions of people watching. It was one of the best experiences of my life. Actually, at the end of the game, when we lost, I sat on the bench and I didn't leave the field until everybody left. The stadium was
Mm,
empty, and I was the only one sitting on the bench. And I was sitting there, and I kind of had that feeling, like this may be one of the biggest times, opportunities, or events of my life. So I kind of just sat there and took it all in. The other reason why I sat there is because earlier in the game, Drake Kendrick scored, and at the end zone, I'm blocking a linebacker. He put his helmet in the dead center of my back. And if
oh,
you watch the video, I go down for like 2 seconds and jump back up. I went right to the sidelines and collapsed. My whole back knotted up. I couldn't breathe.
what?
Yeah, I was banged up. I was banged up stretching for a while.
What?
We ended up playing that game, I believe, Dwight, on offensive side of the ball. We had 92 snaps. We were on the field for
Yeah.
92 snaps that game.
Oh my
Which,
goodness.
yeah, and if you go back and look at the depth chart of the Corey Simons and the guy Jamal Reynolds that played D line against us, they probably averaged maybe 20 snaps that game each.
Hmm.
They were rotating 6, 8 guys on the defensive line.
Yeah.
So when we're on play 75, those guys are on play 16. So that made
Yeah.
a big difference too.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you mentioned Florida State and their defensive line, Corey Simon, those guys rotating in.
Yeah.
Because I said on a Twitter space after the game, hosted by my guy Don V 757, I said, I felt like Pittsburgh was a huge step in the right direction. And it showed what Virginia Tech can be this season and moving forward if they get that continuity that we mentioned earlier in our show. But at the same time, I felt like they saw what they need to be and where they need to go when they played Florida State. Because I felt like when I watched the game, Florida State was rotating defensive linemen in. They had a running back that only rushed for 11 carries, but he had 200 some yards. So even though the game at one point in the third quarter was 22-17, Virginia Tech had its chances, but then they fumbled on a quarterback sneak, recovered it, but they never could really get out of their own way. And then every time Florida State put their mind to it, they just pulled away with a big play, whether it was a big sack, a big run, a big play downfield. Despite them having 10 plus penalties, they still were the better team because they were deep, talented, and they're just better. And I'm looking at that game and I'm like, okay, if I'm Pry, if I'm JC, if I'm Pearson and Coach Marv and Coach Cheat and those guys, and I'm the players, this is where we got to be. Because if you remember, and I'm taking it back a long time ago, I remember Coach Gentry talking to me, the great strength coach that coached at Virginia Tech, coached some great football, basketball players, everything, right? If you remember, I know you're a few years younger than me, he told us that Nebraska was the standard. We played Nebraska in 96. They were the two-time defending national champions.
That was
And the
my
game
redshirt year. Yeah.
the game was 24-21 at one time. We were only down 3. And in the second half, Jason Peter and company just they took off. They mauled us. They scored 20 something unanswered. Ox had a great game. Ken Oxendine. Many people said he should have left early, but the point is that you got a feel for, okay, Nebraska is where we need to be. And then a few years later, God rest his soul, former AD came in. The new AD, Jim Weaver came in, and he told us to our face we weren't ready to play for a national championship.
Yeah, I remember
But
that vividly still. I remember that vividly because me, I looked at Corey Moore and his eyes were just as red as mine when he said that. He told us, he came in and told us we don't have the proper equipment. We don't have the replay screen. We don't have the right indoor facilities. And we're looking at each other. We don't need that. We have each other. We don't need all that ish. We don't need the hoopla, all that extra stuff. He obviously didn't know us that well.
No, he did. But you know what? To his credit, only a handful of years later, a few years later, we got all that stuff. Merriman was built. He fundraised, and you and Corey and those guys went to the national championship game. So look, this ties me into my next question for you. Can Virginia Tech, and this is a tough one, because there's mixed feelings about this. Some people feel like with the day and age of NIL, conference realignment, you have your North Carolinas and the ACC now. They got a great NIL connection with the Jordan brand, and then you look at Michigan, Ohio State, the SEC. Even you look at what Deion's doing at Colorado, for God's sake. Do you think Virginia Tech will ever get back to a point of national relevance? Because just several years ago, Virginia Tech was in the ACC championship in 2016 and took Clemson to a close game. They lost by 7, and Fuente, the former Virginia Tech coach, said if he had scored, he was going to go for 2. But that was with Gerard Evans, Bucky Hodges, Isaiah Ford, and Cam Phillips. They had the running back from out here in Woodbridge, up here in Northern Virginia. They were really, really good. They were really, really deep. They had Greg Stroman. That was a really, really talented team. They won 10 games that year and beat Arkansas in the Boat Bowl. That's the last really big year we were relevant nationally. We were ranked and we were, on TV in primetime games. That seems like 20 years ago, but it was only just 7. Do you think Pry and his staff, even though we're 2-4, it's a build/rebuild? You think we can ever get back to that?
I do. I think it's going to take time. I think people are going to have to be patient. Anyone who knows coaching knows when you get a program, it takes 3 to 5 years to turn it around for it to completely be yours. You hope by year 3 you make that turn, but it doesn't always happen. And with the things changing that we spoke about this whole time, the NIL and the conference realignments and all those things, it's difficult. What is it going to take for Tech to be back to that level again? I think it's going to take a lot of things. I think it's going to take a guy, God willing, another one's born like Mike, to say, I'm staying home. I'm staying in state. I'm going to do this at home. I think Virginia Tech's going to need more of that. Keep the guys in state. I think it's going to take guys like the Danny Wheels, the John Engelbergers, the guys who walked on and wanted to be part of something because they were part of Virginia Tech football and it meant something. And that stuff bled into us too. Us guys that were on scholarship, watching these guys come from core cadet workouts to practice or, walking on and not getting the extra stuff we're getting on scholarship and still busting their ass every day. It's hard not to show up and work as hard as those guys. So they need things like that. It's the character thing. I believe it always comes down to that. It's about high character, but you also want to find guys with high character that have a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, that maybe had a little hard time growing up. Yeah.
No, you're right. No, I agree. Lambo, I agree, man, because I feel like Virginia Tech, you're from Jersey. So like you're not, you from up north. So to come to Southwest Virginia, where restaurants and businesses stay open till 2, 3 in the morning up there, to come to Blacksburg is a change of pace and culture. And that's not just for you. That was a lot even for people like Tyrone and myself to come from the 757, where it's more urban. It's southeast of Virginia, but we don't have cows and pastures and things like that. And then you look at my guy Antonio Freeman, he's from Baltimore City. Him and Keon Carpenter, God rest Keon. So they're from Baltimore City where they filmed The Wire at. And
Yeah.
Keon and Freeman told me this several times. There were schools, big time schools, that didn't want to recruit him because he was from Baltimore City. And then you talk about our brother Roniel Whitaker said that there were schools as prominent as Notre Dame that did not want to come to Young's Park Projects in Norfolk to recruit him. Um, Blacksburg is a unique place. And even though it's built up tremendously since we graduated and moved on, I feel like, and I've said this, and this is not an insult, this is a compliment. I feel like to get back to where we need to be, talent is talent. Players are players and personnel is personnel to fit your scheme. But I feel like you got to get people that are tech people. Um, we were all from all parts of the country, especially the East Coast, but we were tech people, meaning we knew we made fun, we made things happen. We didn't need to be in a big metropolitan area like a school like Georgia Tech or South Beach to have a great time. And I think to some degree, it gave us that brotherhood that we have now 25, 30 years later. Like even the guys that came after me, I see them, oh, you went to Tech, I've talked to some of the household names and guys, and it's that Hokie brotherhood that some schools can't connect and relate to. So I feel like, I'm not on the staff, but I know JC knows this and Pearson, but I feel like you got to get tech guys. You were a tech guy. The moment I met you, I remember you were dipping, you had to dip and your lock was beside mine. And but when it comes to Bill, I mean, when you talk about tech guys, you kind of know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. It's I came down to Tech from Jersey. Like I said, it was a world of difference than where I was from, which I kind of liked. Being up in New Jersey is a different lifestyle, a little faster pace. So coming down to Blacksburg, my senior year of high school or junior year, excuse me, to visit, it was nice. It was different. It was a little odd to me, a little uncomfortable. The slow pace and how friendly everybody was. I'm used to people giving you dirty looks and telling you to go across the street and all that. But I loved it. My dad's an old soul, old school guy. I'm an old soul. So the slower lifestyle, the country setting, the mountains, the fresh air, the slower pace, you know, lifestyle was what drew me there. The family atmosphere. You guys, I mean, the minute I met you guys, it was all love. Whether it was you guys or the older guys who left before us, JC and them on my visit, JC Price and Hank Barron and Myron Newsom and Banks, all those
Mm-hmm.
guys. It was nothing but love. Cornell Brown, everybody showed love, no matter who you were, where you were from. It was all family. And if you came to be a Hokie, and it was they say this is home. This has been home for a long time for a lot of people. They
Mm-hmm.
started that a few years back, but we always felt that way. Like you said, we have a
Mm-hmm.
brotherhood. We talk. It's been over 20 something years that since we left Tech, and we still talk to each other like we seen each other yesterday. So it's a beautiful thing. That's part of the journey and growing and being part of this. And some of it's not always happy times, but that's when you grow and get better as people, as a program, as a community, as a family, no matter what it is. So I learned a lot. I had a lot of great experience in Blacksburg. Probably would have been different if I was in New Jersey. I was brought there for a reason. And I had a blast when I was there. I met great people. I'm still in touch with a ton of people. And I love coming back and seeing guys that want to be there, that are tech guys like JC and Jared Ferguson and Pilo and DB, all those guys. It's nothing but love when you go back. It's exciting to know those guys are there because you know what they're about. You know where they came from. You know the work ethic. You know they care about Virginia Tech football and Virginia Tech as a whole. Andre Davis still working in the program. Chad Beasley
Mm.
keeps in touch with all of us. Keeping us contacted with games and all that and all those things. So it's accumulation of a lot of little things, which Coach Beamer taught us about. Doing all the
Yeah.
little things right, and the little things come into play, and the bigger things take care of each other. So I think we're at a point where we're starting to work out the little things, whether it's running the ball a little better or being on the same page as the offensive line, or picking spots where we can gain an identity. We need to start staying in the games a little longer towards the end and start building that trust in each other, and that starts again in the meeting rooms. It starts in practice, not taking reps off and giving handshake reps to guys so you're getting a break during practice. those things, you know, I've played on teams and programs like that. Before we were 11-1 and 11-1, we were 8-3 and 8-5, and you know, we went through a couple seasons that weren't awesome. We lost to some teams we shouldn't have lost to, you know, which you know, kind of changed the demeanor and aspect of the program as a whole. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
all those things are reasons why.
Well, I can tell you this, man. You know, number one, man, you're still my guy. I love you, but it's crazy because you talk like a coach now. I'm listening to you like, yeah, I would play for this guy. You just, you know, you talk like you saying stuff that's like not just coach speak, but it's all real stuff. And I love that, man. Let me say this real quick. This is my last question before we get our legacy shout outs, and I'll let you get out of here. Um, when you look at Tech, have you been back lately? Have you gone and talked to some coaches and been in the locker room and the offices and stuff? Have you been
Yeah,
back?
yeah, not this summer. Last summer, I went back and brought my oldest daughter, who's a junior in high school, plays basketball. I went to show her the campus, the facilities. I wanted her to get a vision of what could be possible because she wants to go to college and play basketball. So I brought the
Nice.
family down. Yeah, it was a great trip. Brought the family down. We got to see the facilities, Ace Custis. I get to run into Ace. I got to run into Coach Jackson, excuse me, in the weight room. Talk to my daughters about, you know, the purpose of weightlifting, and it was a great trip. And then thereafter, I ran into JC and I saw Coach Pry and Pilo, and got to hang out with them, say hello for a few minutes. And I just stayed in contact with JC for a few months, and I went down 3 or 4 times last season with the family. Went to homecoming. I brought the wife and kids for the first time. They got to be on the field for Sandman. So they had that
Nice.
adventure. Yeah, they got to experience that, which was super dope. Shout out to JC and Jen Root for the love and support. Getting the tickets and having to stay at their house. It's just great. Like I said, it's still family. JC was one of my hosts, my junior year of high school. You know what I'm saying? Now, 20-something years later, I'm sleeping at his house, getting tickets to games. And that's just about being a Hokie. That's family. That's being a home. That's, you know, loving your brother. And that's why we were so successful for all those years. Because guys knew
Yeah.
when you walked in, it's like I said, if it was yesterday or 20 years from now, it's like we spoke to each other 5 minutes ago. You know,
Yeah.
you played a huge role. I don't know if I probably never had the opportunity to tell you, but you played a huge role in a lot of my decision making my freshman year of college. About the way
Me? Really?
yeah, man, about the way I carried myself. I remember having discussions with you about selecting a major. I was from Newark, New Jersey. I grew up with a dad who was a cop, a mom who you know worked part-time, didn't graduate high school for personal reasons, family things going on. So I came in, you know, kind of a lost free soul looking for guidance a little bit. And you were that guy for me. And I always appreciate it. During Thanksgiving, you would tell me to come over. You know, when I was playing defensive line, you'd have me come over and hang out with you guys, which is great. Me, you know, you'd be over with Ron Yell and Andre Kendrick and, you know, your wifey, which was great. You know, it was a
Denise,
lot.
she told me to
Yeah,
tell you
man.
hello. She told me to tell you hello.
Yes, tell her hello. A lot of love, man. A lot of love. Everybody was brothers and sisters. It was beautiful. It was great.
No,
It was
man,
great,
that's
great
dope.
stuff.
And I'm honored, man. And number one, I'm proud of you and what you're doing,
Thank you.
fatherhood. I'm proud of a lot of our guys, our brothers, man. And I get the same vibe when I go back, man. That's why I feel like, you know, there's something brewing. It's just patience is not only a virtue, but it's key. It's essential in this process. I know Tech fans have been through a lot with the previous regime, but I feel like Pry's the right guy because he knows what it takes to build it. He was there when the building started. So I think it's important, man. Lambo, this has been great, man. I'm glad I got you on. I still got to get you on with me and Mike, our show, but
Yeah.
we're supposed to be recording season 3, as I said before you jumped on to the listeners on Spotify and watching us on our YouTube channel when I post this. We're supposed to be doing season 3. I talked to Mike last week. He was in LA doing the Fox NFL pregame show. So
That's awesome.
fingers crossed, prayers up. But with that being said, man, we're at the portion of our show before we wrap up. This is something Danny Noakes and I do. We do a legacy shout out. It could be anybody, whether it's Dorita, your mom, somebody you love, somebody you respect, somebody you want to give flowers. So it doesn't have to be a Hokie. It can be anybody, man or woman or whatever, that you want to shout out to honor them. This is the Victory Life Legacy podcast, and we're big on legacy.
Okay.
So is there someone you want, or a couple of people you want to shout out and make sure they know that you appreciate them, or you just want to
Shout
honor
out.
them?
There's
You
tons
might
of
not even know
people.
them.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people who've played a role in my life from when I was a little kid starting sports all the way through guys we played with at Tech. You know, Coach Gentry is a huge factor in my life. Coach Foster played a huge role. Coach Beamer, you guys, you, Dwight. There's a ton of them. The legacy I would like to leave behind is I would say my mother, man, because she's been through a lot in her life. So, and I respect her strength, and I think I get my strength from her. I learned a lot from her growing up. She's had a rough life as a young kid, and started a family as a young kid, a young adult, and suffered a lot of loss in my family the past 8 years or so. And she's been the strong one through it. I know everybody leans on me and tells me I'm the strong one, and they come for me advice. And you know, I'm the man of the family now because I lost my dad and brother a few years back. But I would say I draw my strength from her, to be honest with you. And I think I try to lead every day in a positive light and show good character and personality to leave back, you know, a legacy with my parents' last name. So I would say
Yeah,
right now, currently, it'd probably be my mom,
that is awesome. And God bless your mom. What's her name?
Mary Lambo.
That's right. Shout out to Mary Lambo.
Yeah. So
God
the only
bless you,
picture
man.
she ever took with anybody, only picture, anything, any autograph I ever asked Mike. I asked Mike for one autograph, and it was a picture of him and my mother. Other than that, I never asked Mike for nothing. But my mom has that picture still, and she don't even have a picture of me and her up. She got a picture of her and Mike up. Yeah, see? So yeah, it's all good.
Ladies and gentlemen, you might not have saw it tonight because he was talking football and tech, but this guy, he was my little brother. He's one of the funniest dudes, man. He would make me laugh. We'd be talking movies, A Bronx Tale, The Sopranos, different shows. We talk hip hop because I'm a hip hop head, even though I'm an OG now. Lambo was that guy, man. I'm so happy to get you on. This is long overdue, but we got to get you on our other joint with me and Mike. But real quick before we let you go, my legacy shout out, and this is a guy you know very well. My legacy shout out is Coach Steinspring. Today's his birthday, so happy
Oh,
birthday to
happy
Coach
birthday,
Steinspring.
Steiny.
Yeah, man. Steinspring, I always feel like he doesn't get enough credit, man, because he was a great coach. He replaced a great coach in JB Grimes, and then of course after being the O-line coach, he eventually became the offensive coordinator. But yes, he was a phenomenal recruiter, but I don't think people realize what a great father figure he was. Um, just a great dude, man. Still texts me now. I mean, you know, he'll just, hey, how you doing? He gets calls from a lot of people that play for him because he really cares about people, not just Hokies, but at ODU and Delaware,
Yeah.
JMU. He's coached everywhere. He knows guys in the NFL, man. I just want to shout him out, man. Just thank you, Coach Steinspring. I love you. I appreciate you. And I also want to shout out you, Lambo, and the rest of the Fools. That's what we called us. The Fools Offensive Line Group. I'm so proud of you, Derek Smith, everybody, everybody, Cadella, that whole crew, Todd Washington, so many guys. Tim Schneck, I mentioned earlier, man. You know, a lot of us now is crazy, man. Like we are now OGs and getting older, but God is still blessing us, man. So
Yes.
I want to thank you for jumping on, man. This has been a lot of fun. And I want to thank everybody. Please get out here, subscribe to our channel. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, and we're on YouTube. So it's a lot of great interviews on here. This is one of them. So thank you to former great offensive lineman, all conference, Anthony Lambo, straight out of New Jersey. And to everybody that supports the Victory Life Movement, I want to salute you and tip of the cap to all of y'all out there supporting the Victory Life Movement. I got a live pop-up shop coming up. I'm not going to do it in the place. I'm going to do a virtual pop-up shop here. I got a big order coming in. I'll go live on either Facebook or Instagram or maybe combine them. So, you know, I'm going to go live. You can order some gear. You'll just DM me or you're going to email me and I'll get the order to you. Got a lot of new designs. It's been a long time since I broke out some new stuff. So everybody be on the lookout for that. I've been getting a lot of questions about when we getting some hoodies and t-shirts.
I just
Is
texted you
hoodies?
last week. You told
I
us
know.
August, man. You said August. So
Yeah.
come on, Dwight.
I said August, but then my vendor was dealing
Yeah, I
with
know
some
how it
personal
is. I
things.
know. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
but it's coming. It's coming. It's coming because my son is even getting on me, but
Listen, if you need
it's
a
coming.
guy, I got a guy. If you need a guy who does shirts, I got a guy.
Well, I may get you that too because well, my lady's really good, man, but
Good.
she's right here down the street. But
Yeah.
I could never have too many guys. You know, you said that Tony Soprano style.
Yeah, I got a guy. Listen, I appreciate you. It was an honor and a blessing to be on here. And it's funny you say that about the show with you and Mike, because I was teasing Chiron. I'm like, when is Mike gonna have one of his linemen on? When he's gonna have one of his boys on? So
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mike. First of all, I picked the guest, but it's hard, man, because Mike's schedule.
I
People don't
get it.
realize I can't relate to that. I'm busy, but he is like on a whole other level, like charity golf games,
I know.
Tariq Hill's podcast, Fox, flying here. black tie events. I'm here in Northern Virginia living my suburban life. I am living life.
I
So
got you.
it's
I got
hard.
you.
But no, we're gonna have a lot more linemen on this year if we set the record next week because
There you go.
I gotta get you back on, Chris Berry. I got a lot of guys. We have Boat Right on, but
Beautiful.
a lot, yeah, we got to get that because it's so funny. Linemen, you broke it down. Linemen are very important, man. It's so funny because we don't pay attention to that in the preseason. Then all of a sudden you watch the game. We got to get tougher in the line, our interior. We can't put, but it's
Man.
true. I learned that from JB Grimes and Coach Steinspring, man. But anyway, Lambo, this has been great, man. I want to just do my sign off, man. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, everybody, make sure you have a positive impact and you live a great legacy. That's Vicktory Life for you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Lambo.
Thank you.